Great, so welcome everybody. Can you see my screen? That has a presentation on it. Brilliant. So this is a training on how to support people to access a warm homes discount and how to switch energy supplier. And I'm just going to begin by giving a little introduction to Bristol Energy Network. I know that some of you already know the network really well, so we won't go into huge amounts of depth, but we're an umbrella organisation for community energy groups in Bristol and a little bit beyond Bristol. And this is a list of our member groups. They're a combination of neighbourhood groups, so people in particular neighbourhoods who want to act on energy, more specialised but less locationally specific groups. So there's a cheese project which does thermal imaging, Bristol Energy Co-op, which organises investment in renewable energy, for example. And then there are also members who are based in particular communities but don't have a special energy focus. So Hartcliffe and Withywood Community Partnership, for example, they run a community centre and services for people in that community, but they're not kind of energy oriented. Several years ago, members of the network created a community strategy for energy, which I'm just going to see. That's embarrassing. So there are 5 main kind of areas in the community strategy for energy, which are community resilience and less fuel poverty, understanding energy and behaviour, energy efficiency and low carbon technology, renewable energy generation and local economic development. And then there's more detail around the edge of this. So this strategy is available on our website if you want to have a look in more depth at what it is that the network is all about. And that's something that was co-created with a lot of different people. So this training is particularly oriented around energy champions. And this is a program that is one of the ways that individuals can get involved with the network. And generally, energy champions are individual volunteers who help people within their communities to access sustainable and affordable energy and to increase their understanding of energy. So we have energy champions in different communities and different workplaces through Bristol who are kind of an access point for information about energy. Some of the energy champions go on to set up their own community energy group or to volunteer with existing BEN member groups or to like get more involved with the network. And today, this is all about learning to support somebody to switch their energy supplier and get a cheaper deal on their energy, and to support someone to access a warm homes discount. So we'll go into lots of detail about how to do those things, and also to connect with each other. And we'd ran a previous training at the end of August, and the people who did that training have then continued meeting up and supporting each other to do things. And Rachel, who's here today, is one of those people. So she can provide a bit of a link into that group, and so we'll continue to be meeting on a regular basis and very much invite you to join that cohort and to be part of that mutual support. Yeah, and Joe is going to talk about how this fits into the WHAM project, which is Warm Homes Advice and Money, which is Joe's going to give a bit more context about that, but we want to report how much money it is that people have been able to save through our support. And there are going to be some interns from CSE joining us a bit later, I think. Yeah, so I think that's it for now. And I'm going to hand over to Joe. So I'll stop sharing.
Thanks, Amelia. Thanks.
There you go.
Okay, bear with me for 1 sec. I'll just share my screen. Ooh.
So Joe's going to give a kind of introduction now, and then we'll have a bit more group discussion and then have a short break. And after the break, Joe's going to really go into the detail of how to do that switching.
Perfect, thank you. So I think I need to enable, is it possible to enable screen sharing? Thanks.
Yeah, there we go.
Perfect, that's brilliant, thank you. Okay, so My name's Joe. I work for the Centre for Sustainable Energy. We're a charity based in Bristol, been going for over 40 years, and we sort of aim to help people change the way they think and act on energy. And the project that I work on, well, one of the projects I work on at the Centre for Sustainable Energy is called WHAM, which is Warmer Homes Advice and Money, which is a project in Bristol and North Somerset, aimed at tackling fuel poverty and providing sort of financial stability to those in fuel poverty. So the project, the WHAM project, is funded. There's a combination of funders, so it's Bristol City Council, Bristol Energy, what used to be Bristol Energy, and the Warm Homes Fund, which is a national grid funding body. And yeah, the idea of the project is that we've drawn together quite a lot of different partners across different agencies so that we can provide a really sort of thorough service to clients who are struggling, because we found that quite often if you just tackle water and energy bills, there's usually some other issues there which don't go away just from tackling the energy and water bills, really. So there is definitely a need to provide a more sort of holistic approach for a lot of clients who have multiple different issues. So that's what the project is aiming to do here. So within Bristol, our partners are, well, see, there's the Centre for Sustainable Energy. That's us. That's a charity that I work for. Within Bristol, there is We Care Home Improvements, who offer the handy person service. And this is normally for elderly and disabled clients, and there's a charge for it, but we can offer it for free to all of our clients for energy related upgrades, really. So anyone who has drafts or major sort of things which might need doing to their heating system, services, radiator bleeding, fitting heating controls, that kind of thing. So we can get that done through We Care Home Improvements. We've got Talking Money on board, and they help our clients with debt advice. And then we have Citizens Advice on board as well, and they help with basically all the other issues. So benefits, employment, rights, housing, immigration, all of this kind of thing is covered by Citizens Advice. And we also have Bristol Energy Network. So their champions are, their Bristol Energy Network are a partner of WHAM. The champions have been helping out, well, previously quite a lot with our outreach. So we did, before COVID, have a lot of events, and that was a really big part of our outreach was getting through to people and meeting new clients through events. But yeah, at the moment we are sort of finding other ways to do this, and that's partly what I'm talking about today, really. So the aim of the project really is to help households that are struggling financially become more financially resilient, to improve the warmth and comfort and safety of their home, and just to improve their knowledge on energy issues and things like understanding their bills, understanding their heating systems, so that they can use energy more efficiently, and also ensuring they're receiving all the benefits they're entitled to. Which so this comes, a lot of this advice comes from Citizens Advice, but also from our caseworkers. And there is no particular there's no eligibility criteria for this project. So we help all households, really. So there's no income bracket or anything at all, but we will tailor our approach depending on how much support someone needs. And every client will have a single caseworker. So I'm a caseworker, and these are all the caseworkers. There are actually some more of them now, but the idea is that the clients have a single point of contact, so that they've always got one person they can go back to, and we help them link things up with the other partner organizations, really. And the reason why we need help at the moment, really, which is part of what I'm talking about here, really, is that we do have very high targets to achieve, very, very sort of high financial outcomes, which are required by our funders. And a really easy way of helping clients out financially is to make sure they're on the best value energy tariff, as I'll show you soon. I mean, it can generally save households sort of between £200 and £300 a year if they're switching from a standard tariff. So it's a really good way of us helping people out quickly, and also reaching our targets that we need to establish more funding to continue the project, basically. And there has also been a huge increase on demand in the service since COVID, which is so I mean, there's a lot more people claiming universal credit, learning about various sort of benefits and grant things for the first time. There's been new grants come out, like the Green Homes grant. So there's a huge amount of pressure on the service at the moment, and we don't always have the resource to provide things like switching advice at the moment, when there's so much demand. So this is why it would be really useful to have some volunteers helping with this side of things, because it does a great job of saving money for the clients. It's a fairly easy thing to learn, and yeah, I mean, it will be a huge help to our service, which is really sort of overburdened at the moment, I would say. So actually, sorry, the next bit is moving on. So I'll pass back to Amelia, if that's okay.
Yeah, great. I was muted. Great. So maybe if you let's stop the screen sharing, now we can see everybody again. Rachel, I was wondering if you'd be up for saying a little bit about your experience so far, because it has been a pretty challenging thing to try and do, and we have those targets of trying to help people to make financial savings, but the usual avenues for talking to people have been difficult.
Well, I've done a couple of sessions recently. Abir hosted me very kindly at her mother and toddler group in Easton Community Centre, and I basically just went into safely. We all had masks and distance. Chat to some of the mothers who turned up and ask if they knew about switching, if they were aware about how much that could save them on energy bills. And I found quite a mixed bag. Some people were very, very on it and switched regularly and were very aware of it, and other people not at all. So it definitely felt beneficial. And so I basically, because of not being able to really have close contact, I basically encouraged people to look at the switching site on the Citizens Advice site, and to follow that through. But I also gave them my contact details if they had any problems with that, or if they had any questions to follow up. And then some people were and I told them about the Warm Homes discount as well. Again, I think only one person knew about it, because their energy company, E.ON, turns out are very good and had informed her that she was eligible for it. So she was on it, but quite a few other people had never heard of it. So I just recommended that they just call up their companies and just ask, am I eligible for this? Because I know that the eligibility is a bit different for every company. So so it definitely felt worthwhile. I did the same again a few days later at Felix Road Adventure Playground, again with parents who were around, just stopping and asking if they know. So basically just promoting awareness around the topic at the moment.
Great. So I think with that kind of thing, we'll be able to record a kind of estimate of how many people may have switched as a result of that information.
I took down information of numbers of people that I'd spoken
to. Excuse me. That's easy.
I actually referred a couple of people directly to CSE, because they had some debt problems with their energy services. So I just gave them the contact number and suggested getting in touch directly to take that further.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Yeah, it's debt's definitely something to pass through to us, because it does get a bit more complicated. So, but yeah, no, it's great that you managed to do some events. I mean, we've been doing almost all of it on a sort of one-to-one phone and video call basis so far. So we haven't really done any sort of in-face events. But as I was saying to Amelia yesterday, like there is a slight issue there with this sort of trust issue over the phone. And I think, you know, having
Yeah.
like seeing people face to face is really good for establishing a trust, you know, like for switching. I think people do need to have a bit of trust in you and your decision, because I mean, there's a lot of sort of cold callers and doorsteppers doing this kind of thing. So people are naturally a bit dismissive of it and a bit untrusting of people trying to ask them to switch. So it's great that you're managing the sort of face-to-face ones. And I think
Yeah.
it's just a really good time in general to be looking at it, because people have been watching their bills a little bit more, because I think, you know, they've been spending more time at home. They've potentially had a drop in income, a bit more time on their hands to actually look at this kind of thing. And then certainly with the Warm Home Discount, the number of new claimants for universal credit means that there's more people sort of coming into the eligibility for that, and most of them will have never heard of it before as well. And yeah, as you say, a lot of people haven't heard of it. It's, you know, it's even people who've been receiving benefits for years might have been missing out on it for years. So you can make a real difference there in terms of getting someone £140 every year for the rest, you know, until the scheme continue, you know, for however long the scheme continues, really. So that's great.
Great. So now we're going to put you into breakout groups again. So I'm going to pause the recording and we'll start it up again when we get into the next bit of presentation.
Screen. Okay, can everyone see that? Has that come through okay?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, yeah, well, we'll start with the information that you need from clients in order to do the switch, because without some of these things, you're not going to get very far with the switch. So, I mean, ideally, it's great if people can bring their energy bills along. So, you know, if someone's got an energy bill to hand, that's going to give you everything you need to know, basically. But you know, there's so yeah, if sessions are being run in groups, it's a really good idea to advise people to bring energy bills, like a recent one if possible, beforehand. So the first thing you'd check is their current supplier and the name of their tariff. Most people know the name of their current supplier, but not the tariff name. So that'll feature on the bill. I'm going to go through a bill in a second to show you where all this information is. It's also useful to note down here any end dates for the tariff and any exit fees that apply. So with some fixed tariffs, you'll get charged sort of 20 or 30 pounds per fuel to leave before the tariff end date. So it's worth considering that if someone wants to switch, that they may have to pay this exit fee. So it's worth noting that down, which is also available on the bill. The payment method is really important, mainly because if they're on prepayment, which is paying with a top-up key or card, sometimes with smart meters, it's just a card now that you take to the shops or top up online, and you load the money onto the meter, and you sort of pay as you use, basically. So this is a different meter type. So you would actually need to know this at the beginning of the comparison, because it brings up a whole lot of different tariffs, basically, if they're on a prepayment meter. So yeah, find out how they pay at the moment and how they want to pay. So a lot of people, I mean, you know, generally the cheapest way is direct debit, and it's generally the easiest way as well. A lot of people are put off it because energy companies quite often, you know, they might change the direct debit every 6 months when they review it and things like that, and it can really sort of throw people off a bit. And yeah, so some people do like to pay when they receive the bill, but you do end up restricting your choice of tariffs. So generally, if someone's paying by direct debit, it's going to give you the biggest choice of tariffs. And I'd say it should generally be encouraged for clients that are sort of capable of managing their budgeting, really. For clients who really struggle with budgeting, a prepayment meter is quite a good option. You don't get quite the same value from it, but it's better than it used to be. And they are easier to top up than they used to be, because of smart meters, basically. So the other ones I've got on there, so we've got direct debit, paying on a receipt of bill. So that's just, you know, you take your bill to the post office every quarter when it comes in. prepayment, as I mentioned, and fuel direct. So you might see this sometimes if someone's getting their fuel bills deducted from their benefits, but it's not that common to see it. It generally happens when there's been a debt on the account at some point. And the next useful bit of info is the estimated annual consumption. So this is a figure which they estimate is going to be your energy, your electricity or your gas consumption over the course of a year. They generally give it to you in kilowatt hours or in pounds. So you can take either of those figures because all the energy switching websites take both of those figures. The kilowatt hours one is generally a bit more useful because it's translatable across tariffs. So the kilowatt hours annual consumption is a good figure to take, but either of those is going to help you with the comparison. And what that does is you just make sure that you're setting up someone on the correct sort of direct debit, basically. If that is, it's good to know how much they use over a year so that it helps you choose the right tariff for them, and it also helps you get the correct sort of amount that they should be paying monthly correct as well. And then, yeah, look out for other types of meter as well. So quite often if someone's on electric only, they might have an economy 7 meter, which is a 2-rate meter. So you get a cheap rate at night and an expensive rate during the day. And this is generally used for electric storage heaters. So it's it's a particular type of meter, and you can run comparisons with economy 7. They will sometimes ask you, well, usually on the switching websites, they'll say, do you have an economy 7 meter? For people with gas central heating, it's likely to be no. For people with storage heaters, it's likely to be yes. But again, you can see that on the bill as well. Economy 10 is another version of this. You won't come across it very often, I don't think, so I'm not going to spend long on this. But basically, if you come across an economy 10 customer who wants to compare rates, it's probably better to refer them to us because we have to do this sort of manually. The switching websites can't cope with it really. Another important thing is whether they want to receive paper billing or online billing. I mean, it's quite a sad fact really that all the cheapest tariffs are online now, so it really excludes some customers. But yeah, it's a really important consideration. You don't really want to be setting someone up for online billing if they're never going to be able to see their bills, So this is how it happens more and more now. People sort of find themselves signing up for really cheap tariffs and realize they can't get the bills in paper. So, and they struggle to access it online, and then before long they're not sure what the balance is, they're not sure what the tariff is. It can get really messy. So it's another thing to check with people. So I'll just show you an example bill. I hope everyone can see this. Let me know if you can't see this British Gas bill on my screen at the moment. It should have come through. So yeah, this is an energy statement.
Oh, I can't see it.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. One moment. Okay, new share. Sorry. There we go. Has that worked? Could everyone see the bill?
I can now see it. And I can't see it
brilliant.
before.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is a British Gas bill. So quite a kind of standard one you'd see. So the useful information on here, the customer number is useful for the Warm Home Discount application, which I'm going to go through a bit later. So that's a useful bit of info to take down from the bill. And then everything we need on this particular bill is actually here in this this little box at the bottom. So it's got the gas tariff name here. It's just the same tariff name for both Home Energy Secure, Green, December 2021. They're paying by Fuel Direct here. They've got a tariff end date of the 31st of December 2021. And if they leave British Gas before that time, they'll pay £40 on each fuel. So that's quite an important consideration there. Estimated annual usage here. So it's given in both pounds and kilowatt hours. So I think as a preference, I would take the kilowatt hours measurement. So we're going to put that into the comparison tool later. So I'll show you, I'll go back to the presentation now, and I'll show you how we use the info from that in a second. So what do we use to actually check deals once we've got this information from the client. So you want to use only the Ofgem accredited comparison sites. Really, there are quite there's a if you just Google sort of Ofgem comparison sites, it will bring up the full list. Everyone's got their own sort of preference for these, but as long as they are Ofgem accredited, you're sort of with a fairly reliable one there. So the really popular ones are like Uswitch, Energy Helpline, Go Compare. Martin Lewis has one. Citizens Advice have got a really good one. The Citizens Advice one's a bit different because it's completely impartial. They don't help you with switching, so they don't promote certain tariffs. So it's a good way of looking at tariffs, but they don't. And it gives you a completely impartial view. They don't try and promote certain tariffs at you, but you can't actually do the switch on the Citizens Advice website. So you'll probably, if you have a play around with a few of these, you'll find the one that you like to use the most. I'm going to use Uswitch on this one just because it's one that a lot of people are familiar with. I don't have a particular preference. They all do very much the same thing in many ways. So one thing to mention to people is to always avoid switching from cold callers and doorsteppers. This happens a lot, and they tend to, they're not really scamming. Well, it's not so much a scam. It's more that they will underestimate the annual usage so that they can set them up on what appears to be a very cheap deal, a cheap monthly cost. But 6 months down the line, they realize that there's debt accumulated, and it happens quite a lot. People get into debt this way, or they just end up on a bad value tariff, which they can't escape from without exit fees. So yeah, cold callers and doorsteppers is just a bad way of getting your energy deals, basically. And yeah, as I said, so there's a huge sort of digital exclusion issue here as well, where if you don't have internet access, it's really hard to compare comparisons, to do energy comparisons. And I think this is where this assistance with help with switching can come in particularly useful. So a lot of the comparison sites also have a telephone service. So at the moment, if we're not doing switches face to face, we can do the comparison with someone who doesn't have the internet. And then perhaps you can, we can print it off and send it to them, or you can talk them through some of the options, and they can call up one of these switching websites to go through it. But yeah, it's trickier without the internet, definitely.
Can I just ask if it was in terms of printing off and sending, if some of the energy champions may not have access to a printer, is that something that CSE would be able to help with?
Yes, I think, yeah. I mean, we I would imagine so. I think, there's, yeah, I don't see why not at all. No, that we could definitely help with that. So, I think if you got in contact, if it was something that you were needing to do quite regularly, we could definitely set up a system of printing off the comparisons and posting them out to the clients.
Yeah.
I think like that sometimes that is the only way of getting the information across to someone, or sometimes they might just be happy to hear about one of the cheapest tariffs, and then you can set them up with one or two different options, and then they can either, you can do the switch on your side, or you can give them the number for the switching website and they can do it that way. Or another good thing, another thing which I do quite often is try and find a time to contact a client when they've got a relative or friend visiting, or a carer, someone who can help them access the internet. So that just so that you can go through that on a sort of on a phone call with both of them. That generally works really well. Because there's no guarantee that they'll follow it up if you sort of post it over to them. They might not be quite as fresh in their mind. So, it's about sort of developing your own sort of approach for finding the best way of helping people with this, really.
I don't know if I missed this. Sorry, I was a little bit late. But are we not expected to ever be signing people up ourselves online then? Like, we wouldn't do it for them and switch them?
So yes, actually we would. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, sorry, Holly. So yeah, it varies between projects at CSE, I think. So you want to speak to whoever's managing the project you're working on
Right,
about it,
sure.
I would say. But yeah, you know, I would advise, I think it's great if we can do that. It's a lot of clients are happy for it to just be in the advisor's hands and say, you know, like, please just, you know, that they trust you and it's fine. But you do quite often find, especially with telephone advice, people aren't always that willing to trust you enough to go through with that
Yeah.
final check. So sometimes it's best to just say, look, these are your options. Here's how you take it further. But if they are saying, look, I can't take this further, I really need help here, it can be really good to be able to offer that service to take it through to the end.
Okay.
The only thing to make them aware of is if they're signing up for a direct debit tariff, they're going to have to give you their bank account number and sort code, which people aren't, you know, it's not, it is sensitive information. It can just be used for direct debits. Basically, it's not as sensitive as the long card number or things like that. But yeah, that's quite often a stalling point for people. If they're on prepayment, you don't have to provide that. So if you're helping switch someone on prepayment, they won't need to give you bank details. It's actually surprisingly easy to get to do a switch through on prepayment. But yeah, if it's direct debit, they're going to need to part with that information at some point, either with the advisor they're speaking with or with the switching website they're going to use. So yeah, it can be quite a kind of, yeah, it can be a difficult point there, especially as there are so many scams going on all the time. So people are super cautious about it, which is rightly so, I think. So I'm going to load up the example now. One moment. Okay.
Can I
Let
just
me know
ask
if.
a question about the energy bill?
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it looked like on that example bill, all the information was really clearly there. Is that the
yeah.
same for most bills for different?
No, unfortunately not. No, it's actually, yeah, this is a really annoying thing about energy bills is that they put that info in different places every time, you know. So it's tricky. I mean, if your client can send you a picture of the bill, you'll probably be able to find it quite quickly. But if you're working with a client who's got bad eyesight or just, you know, doesn't understand this massive amount of information that's put in front of them, it can be quite hard for them to find this info. It's usually in a box which says about your tariff. So most suppliers will have most bills will say about your tariff somewhere and then have all that info in one place.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
One thing I do sometimes to help with this is if you go on Google and type in the energy supplier they're with and then just example bill, sometimes you'll find an example bill and then you can say, oh, okay, so it's on page 2 on the right hand side or something. And then but the difficulty here is sometimes they change their bills. So you know, they move it around as well, which doesn't help. So yeah, so but that can be quite a good way of trying to find an example bill to talk through with someone. But yeah, annoyingly, it's not, they don't make it that easy to find. And certainly if someone's looking online on their online account, they will usually need to download a bill to find all the information. It doesn't always appear like on your online dashboard. It's quite minimal information on there, really. So yeah, looking at a bill yourself is always the preference, really. Okay, so can everyone, someone give me a shout if they can't see Uswitch right now with this guy with his folded arms. So I've gone on to uswitch.com, which is just one of the many switching websites you can use. It's a really kind of popular one, I guess. So we're going to click onto energy here. And then it will ask you for your postcode. You don't have to put in your email. So I'll just put in our office postcode and then compare and save. So I'll ask you for your address. This is all fairly straightforward info at the moment. Ask if you use gas. So it's yeah, in this case we are going to compare for gas. So yes. Are you on a dual fuel tariff? So this refers to do you get your gas and your electric from the same supplier? Generally, we you know, you still meet a lot of people who don't get their gas and electric from the same supplier, but it's a lot cheaper. Well, it's a lot more straightforward to get it from the same supplier, and you generally get a discount on a by going on for a dual fuel tariff. So, you know, some of the best value tariffs are generally dual fuel. So I generally encourage people to get it from the same supplier. But certainly a lot of people who are used to getting their gas from British Gas and their electricity from SWEB, you know, that there was this kind of people, you know, certainly older clients are used to having a separate one for gas and electric. So it's something they might need to sort of adjust to that there. So at this point, I'm going to use the British Gas bill I was looking at earlier. So I'm going to put British Gas as a supplier there and continue. And now it's going to ask me, yeah, how do I pay for my energy? So actually it hasn't given Fuel Direct as an option on here. So the closest thing to that is paying on receipt of bill. So we'll put that. Okay, and now, so this is finding the plan name. So as you've probably seen, there are just loads and loads of plan names. So it can get really confusing. So it's important to get this information right from the client. Quite often what clients do is tell you the first part without the date afterwards. I find people do that all the time. They'll say, oh, it's called Home Energy Fixed Green, but you need that date afterwards because there'll be a variety of ones called that with a different month and year afterwards. So the bill we were looking at earlier, that was called Home Energy Secure Green December 2021. Bit of a mouthful. Home Energy Secure Green December 2021. So it's there. So that's all correct now. So click continue. If anyone's got any questions, by the way, or wants me to slow down or anything, just shout out. There's no, just don't feel you've got to say questions to the end. Shout out anytime. So yeah, now it's going to ask, do you know how much you use or spend on your energy? So if you can't get those estimated usage figures from your client, if they, generally, you can call the supplier to get those figures. But sometimes people won't have those figures to hand. You can do a switch without using those figures. You click no here, and then it will talk you through some really basic information about the house. I think it's literally just the number of bedrooms and the type of house, the type of home. So it will give you this really rough estimate of like the sort of off-gem averages for this type of house. And it's just not, it's okay, but it's not ideal, especially if you're setting up a direct debit, because the averages are going to be quite different to what people are using generally. So because everyone has completely different habits at home. So, people could use way above or below the average, and you generally want to try and set people up with a direct debit, which is going to reflect how much they're using as best as possible, really. So in this case, we've got the figures for how much they use. So we'll go ahead with this. It will ask whether we want to share it in pounds or kilowatt hours. We've got kilowatt hours, so we'll go for that. And this is where we enter it. So gas and electric in kilowatt hours. So for the gas, it is 18406, 18406. And for the electric, it is 4945. You don't have to worry about the decimal places with these, really. It doesn't need to be that accurate. So, okay. So it's going to bring up a selection of tariffs here. Now, the first thing to do, and this applies to every switching website apart from the Citizens Advice one, which is, as I was saying, an impartial one. You want to click filter and then click this one, which says include plans that require switching directly through the supplier. So you see, like, these switching websites are a bit crafty, really, in that they've been paid by certain suppliers to promote certain tariffs, but you really want to give people the full range to choose from. So you want to include plans that require switching directly through the supplier, and then click show results, and you'll see it brings up a whole load of other ones which weren't there before. So that's a really sneaky method that they use to sell their tariffs, and they pretty much all do this apart from the Citizens Advice one. So now we've got the full range of tariffs to look at here. So you can see a bit of info. It'll start at the cheapest one here. As we can see, like, the saving compared to British Gas is pretty huge. But this is quite a high user that I've taken a bill from. So the higher the user, the bigger the saving is going to be from switching. But as you can see, like this sort of impact on someone's monthly bills is going to be pretty huge, really. It's, so that amounts to about sort of about £58 a month saved, which is going to be a huge difference for someone particularly on a lower income. So yeah, it just goes to show what a difference this can make, really. But yeah, now it comes to the kind of tricky part of deciding what you're going to. I mean, essentially, I think the important thing is not to recommend a particular supplier. I wouldn't say, oh, I'd go for this one. I think the important thing is to give people a sort of balanced and impartial view on it. Find out what their priorities are, and maybe give them a few options, 2 or 3 options. Don't try and drown them in options, because they will get overwhelmed, because there are an overwhelming amount of suppliers available to choose from. As you can see down this list, it's pretty huge. There's loads to look at. So yeah, so keep it as simple as you can, I'd say, and make sure you give people the option. And if you avoid recommending a certain supplier, that's really good, because it means that, I mean, every supplier can make mistakes. Like, you can have a bad experience with any of them, and what you don't want is people coming back to you and saying, oh, you recommended this one, why am I now having a problem with them? You want to steer clear of giving direct recommendations like that, because they can all have issues, really. So I guess the thing to try and work out from people is, what are they interested in a tariff? Do they just want the cheapest one around? Do they want a green energy tariff? And I've got a bit more info on this a bit later if we got time. Yeah, or are they after one with a really good customer service rating? There's all these things to balance up, really. Generally, the cheapest ones at the top don't tend to have the best customer service rating. So if it's someone who gets easily confused by their bills, or if you think there's an issue there, a vulnerability where they might stand a risk of getting in trouble with their bills, perhaps it might be potentially better to choose one which has a slightly better rating. And how do we check the ratings? So there's I would recommend sort of 2 resources for checking energy supplier ratings. So one is the Which report. So I'm just going to bring that up now. So if you just type in Which report energy suppliers 2020, or something along those lines, and I'll send this link around so you can have it to hand. But it's this one here, the Which energy survey results. So this helps you sort of get an idea of which ones are coming out highest rated, worst rated. So here you go. You can kind of talk people through the suppliers here. So if when someone's looking for one which is particularly good on the customer service side, the ones at the top of this list are going to be better to look at, really. And the other resource to check that I would say is the Citizens Advice Energy Supplier League table, which I'm just bringing up now. So this one's actually quite different to the Which one. It's based entirely on complaints. So they get information. It's quite unique in that they get information on complaints and switching speed and switching issues. So it's different to the Which one. So gives you a little view on things. So actually this one that's at the top of the survey here, the green, the top of the results here, green, it's actually come out pretty well recently.
Don't think we can see
Lost
that.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
What? Okay, sorry. Did everyone miss the Which one as well?
We saw the
Yeah,
Which, but not the
Oh,
Citizens
okay.
Advice.
Oh, okay, that's strange. Can you see it now?
No. You're not showing anything at the moment.
Okay, don't worry. I'll link it to you. It looks the same as the Which one basically, but I'll provide the link. It's in the PowerPoint. So those are 2 good resources to look at. Basically, yeah, it's a good way of checking your supplier. Trustpilot's another option, but energy suppliers actually pay for good reviews on Trustpilot, so I've lost my faith in it a bit. I mean, some people still use it, and it still gives you a bit of an overview, but there is a fair amount of evidence to suggest that you can pay to get good reviews on Trustpilot now. So I think it's, yeah, a bit of a shame, but it's not always that accurate. So yeah, so once you got these options, you know, you can talk people through what you know, these the different, you know, generally starting with the cheap ones is a good option. The filter button on here can be really good as well for working out if people need certain things. So if you see down here, if people are really keen on green plans, and
No,
you
I
know,
think that's not. We're not having anything shared at the moment, so we've lost the. Yeah.
really? Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry about this.
Okay.
Thanks for
No,
letting me
that's
know.
fine.
One moment.
Okay.
Let me set this up again.
I wonder if maybe we could have a little pause for questions, because that's a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, let's yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions so far on that switching, or just like comments of how confident you feel from this information to be able to have a go yourself to start with, and then to potentially support someone else to do it. Are there any questions?
A prepayment bill be like the same as a direct debit one? Will people still get a bill for a prepayment meter?
It's a good question, actually. They tend to not. They tend to get annual summary and not a quarterly bill. So when you're working with prepayment customers, you're less likely. They're not likely to know those annual usage figures, because yeah, they just get one bill a year generally, and it's a kind of annual summary, and it quite often gets thrown away because people don't tend to keep stuff over a year old sometimes. So quite often people don't have that info. It's actually, I would say though, it's less of an issue with prepayment, and I find myself doing more of the estimated comparisons with prepayment, because you're not setting up a direct debit. There's no chance they're going to get into debt, and you know, the only thing you're going to be looking at is the tariff rates basically, and how it compares to what they're paying at the moment. There's less risk there really, as long as it's cheaper than what they've got at the moment. It doesn't matter if the estimate's wrong. You know, if it's slightly wrong, I mean, it helps for reporting if you've got a sort of an idea of how much they're going to save. So it's good to have those figures, but it's, yeah, it's, you know, it's less important than with a direct debit. If you estimate with a direct debit, like, you might end up setting them up paying like, you know, £50 a month, but are actually using like £90 a month, and then when the bills start coming in, they got a debt accumulating, and then it, you know, it ends up in problems. So yeah, it's I'll run through the unit rates side of things now, which is probably the next thing to look at.
Yeah, and then it'd be great to do a bit on the Warm Homes discount and how to collect.
How much time have we got on the?
So we've got, I guess you've got another 10, 5-10 minutes.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Sorry, I've yeah, probably spent a bit too long on this side of things. Okay, all right. I'll quickly share this. I'll share this now just so you can see. So, can everyone see that now on the Uswitch website? So you can filter out between people who want green plans, people who need paper billing, people who need the warm home, people who qualify for the warm home discount, and then that will bring up new results depending on what you're looking at. So can everyone see what I'm seeing on the Uswitch site?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, good stuff. So yeah, to look at unit rates, you just go into plan info on here, and it will give you view standing charges and rates. So there you go. You can look at what they're gonna what they're going to be paying for each unit on here, and you can directly compare it. Yeah, sorry, here it is, view detail calculations. So yeah, this is how they come out with this figure of the total cost. They look at your gas consumption on the current and the chosen plan. So it helps you sort of get to that figure of why the savings there basically. So I'm going to push on to the warm home discount because we're running out of time a little bit, if that's okay. Any questions about this? I know there's quite a lot to take in, so you can sort of get back to me. You know, you can email me with any questions after this as well. So let's leave that for the moment. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so when you do the switch, it takes 3 weeks to complete. So there's a 14-day period after you switch, which is called the cooling off period, where nothing, you know, basically like they can cancel the switch at that point if they want, and it's generally in that 3rd week where they will put it through, and they don't need to contact the old supplier. The new one will contact the old one to let them know they're taking over supply. The new supplier will ask for meter readings, and it's really important that the client gives the new supplier these meter readings, because they're going to send those to the old supplier. The old supplier is going to end that account on those meter readings, and the new supplier is going to start it on the same ones. So if you get estimated readings on there, it can be a bit kind of troublesome. It's best for them to give their readings to the new supplier when they get asked for it, basically. And so looking at the warm home discount, so I think I've got 10 minutes to go. Well, like a bit of time to go through this anyway. Sorry. So it's a £140 grant offered by the electricity supplier, and it comes around every year. It's only offered by large suppliers, so ones with over 200,000 customers. So it's so it's not every supplier that participates. But Ofgem has a list of the ones participating, and you can also use the switching website. As I showed you back there, USwitch will filter out the ones which don't participate. So it's split into 2 groups of qualifying customers, basically. The core group is customers who receive pension credit, or the guarantee element of pension credit. So that's elderly customers on a low income. And they will receive the warm home discount automatically. They don't need to apply. So if your client falls into that category and they get the pension, if they get the guarantee element of pension credit and they're with a participating supplier, they don't need to apply. It will just come through automatically. I think someone needs to mute actually. Sorry, I'm getting a, sorry, perfect. So the the core group, it comes through automatically. The broader group, so this is a this sort of set of criteria covers homes which have vulnerabilities, so low income, long-term health conditions, young children, that kind of thing. If you have a client receiving benefits or is on a low income, it's generally quite a good idea to check their eligibility for the warm home discount. And annoyingly, the criteria varies slightly between suppliers. I'll send through our current list of criteria. It's quite similar between suppliers, so you'll come to sort of learn what they what suppliers are looking for this criteria. But yeah, essentially, if they're receiving benefits, I would straight away be checking for warm home discount. If they're on a low income or have young children, I would also straight away be checking for the warm home discount, because it's there's a chance they could get this. The applications are open at the moment, so it opens every year in the late summer, autumn, and the payments arrive in the late winter. Suppliers don't usually tell their customers about this, so that's why so many people miss this, and a lot of people don't know about it. So it's a great result that you can get for people that a lot of people just don't know about, really. And I'm just going to quickly show you what one of the forms look like, just so you know that it's not such a such a kind of difficult thing to go through, really. I'll show you how quick it is. Okay, so everyone should.
Oh, sorry. So the application's open, and then is there a limited number? So do they run out?
So the applications open in late autumn, and then every supplier has a pot of money which is put aside for the warmer home discount, and this does run out. So basically, that they close when it runs out, but they don't really give you any notice about it. So the advice is always get the application in as soon as possible, because we just don't really know when they're going to close. They also don't give any warning about when they open. They don't open all at the same time. It's sort of staggered across the autumn. At this point, most of them are open, but yeah, they could close at any note without any notice, basically. So there's that is a risk that means that you should try and do it for people as soon as possible, really. So I think everyone can see, I hope everyone can see, I've got E.ON's warm home discount scheme on my screen at the moment. Let me know if not. So I'm just going to click start. I mean, I just found this by typing in Google E.ON warm home discount. So I'll just click start your application, and you'll see what they require on this. So this is all fairly easy information, which you'd be taking anyway, generally from clients as part of the reporting process. So name, date of birth, address. This is the bit which some clients may struggle with. You will always need the account number for a warm home discount application. So this will be available on their latest, or on any bills or welcome packs, or quite often on emails as well. If you can't find it, then the client needs to call their supplier to get this account number. You can't do the application without it, really. So, yeah, the account number goes in there. I confirm that I'm the account holder or the partner of the account holder. Contact information here, so phone number and email address. And then this is the eligibility section. So it's quite similar on all of these. It's a tick box sort of exercise, really. So say we're talking about a client who's receiving income support and has a 3-year-old child. We would go through here. So yeah, they receive income support. And do they have any of the following? A child under 5 living with them? Yes. So you only have to tick one of these boxes and they qualify, basically. So as long as they tick one of these boxes with E.ON, they're going to qualify. As I say, I'll send around the information about the criteria. It takes, generally if they're receiving benefits, it's worth checking this, and then I would read them this customer declaration at the end. This basically just tells them that E.ON will check with the Department for Work and Pensions to see if they're receiving the benefits we've said they are. And if they can't work this out, they may write to the client to ask for proof of benefits. But it doesn't happen that often, to be honest. So usually they can get this info from the Department of Work and Pensions. So we click the declarations. There is, on a few of the applications, they'll give you some extra stuff about, this is about, providing grant funding for loft insulation and cavity wall, which is something we help with separately. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. And then, yeah, click send, and it's done. And you don't have to do anything else at that point. They will, the payment takes a while to come through. So late winter generally is when it will come through. And I would say to clients, don't count on the payment coming through, because it's never a certainty, but it's quite likely with these big organizations that you'll get it. But I would say to people, just keep paying your bills as normal. Don't count on the discount coming in, because it should be seen as a kind of bonus rather than relying on it, as a to keep your balance in check, So yeah, that's what I'd advise on that side of things. So
great. Are there any questions about that? I know it's a lot of information to take in, so we're going to have a moment for you to be in groups again to talk about that, and also to talk about what we can do next in terms of supporting each other. And we found.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
sorry. Do you find that sometimes people aren't really clear on the different benefits they receive, or is it tied under universal credit? I'm just wondering, how is there a place that you could find out about that?
Yeah, so if they hopefully they would have kept some benefit letters somewhere. So that's generally the first thing we'd ask for. So if they don't know what they're receiving, then it's hopefully they will have a letter somewhere which explains it to them. If not, they're going to have to contact DWP, which is a lengthy something which I would leave to them, to be honest, because it's, you know, it's like the hold times are pretty bad. So I wouldn't try and embark on this for your own sanity. I mean, we do it here, but I think as volunteers, like, it's going to be really annoying trying to call DWP. So I think, yeah, sorry. I mean, I say we. I know you're like, we work together, Harry. I'm sorry, but I'm speaking to you in a. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, it's yeah, but it's that's the only other place they'll be able to get that info. So hopefully they'll have kept letters. It's yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, we'll leave that for you to chat about in groups in a minute.
I'm sorry, I ran over and sorry.
That's okay. Oh, let me try and, I just
we
want to
didn't
say a
go
little
through
bit
them.
about how we want to record the information about the switches that have happened. So as Joe said, there's a kind of reporting requirement in terms of the project funding, and there's this, you know, very much the intention to demonstrate that people who have been supported have saved money. So it's all about the money saved by the people supported in this this project. And I haven't quite got, so Lisa has set up for us a Datto spreadsheet. So that is one way that we can record the information. I haven't quite got it set up properly so that everybody can access it. And I'm going to try and do that soon. And I know, Rachel, you've already got things that could be added into that. But the information that ideally we want to have, I know this is quite small, just zoom it right in. So we want people's full name, their address, including the postcode, their telephone number, email address, tenure. So that's like, are they renting or do they own their home? Property type. So that's like, is it a flat? Is it a semi-detached? Is it a terraced house? Number of adults in the house, number of children in the house, number of older people in the house, number of bedrooms. Are they switching their supplier or are they switching their tariff? So they might stay with the same supplier but switch their tariff. How much are they going to save? So that's something that the switching site should give us the information about what the saving is likely to be on electricity and on gas separately. And then whether they've applied for the Warm Homes discount and any notes. And with the notes, it'd be really good to just have a little record of how you were in contact with them. Was it on the phone? Did they like get in touch with you? Was it at an event? And then finally, if they need to have a referral to the team, the main WAM team. So, you know, if there's any kind of debt issues or anything that's beyond just supporting them with the switching and with the Warm Homes discount, that's really important to kind of refer that into the WAM team and not take on anything that's beyond what you can do as a volunteer. So I will sort that out so that you can have access to editing it.
Just one note on the, just a quick note on the column about savings for gas and electric. Sometimes you won't always get both of those separately, so don't worry too much if you're doing the switch and you can't find the separate gas and electricity information. Just take down the total annual saving and then we'll split it in half. If that's, you know, it still gives us an idea of what they saved. So but yeah, if you can find it, that's great, but it's not always there, so don't worry too much about that.
Great. Are there any other?
Another question?
Yeah, go for it.
Is there, I'm just thinking about like data protection stuff in terms of like gathering people's personal information. Do we need to read anything out, or, and then also that feels like quite a big spreadsheet. Are there like priority columns in terms of if there were just a couple of columns that you really needed?
So I think I know what you mean. It is quite a lot. It's quite a lot of info there. I'd say like the most important things are name, address, and savings and financial impact, basically, and you know, whether they've got the Warm Home discount, what the switching savings were, and also contact details are going to be handy as well, just in case we do need to follow up with casework or anything. It's great if we have the full set, because that's what the funder, the Warm Homes Fund, assesses us on. That's what they've asked for basically for every client, but we can't always provide it, so it's yeah, don't if it's, if you're feeling like it's people don't want to give that information, or yeah, the basic sort of name, address, contact details, and then say, savings would be also really appreciated. So
Okay, so I'm going to give you just a few moments now in groups again to start to digest what you've learned, and so I'm just going to set that up, and the questions that yeah, so just like, how confident do you feel to do the switch yourself or to support someone else? What further training would you want from us? And then we've also got a regular meeting which we have been doing every 2 weeks on a Tuesday evening for the Energy Champions. I'm aware that you've all chosen to come to the daytime meeting, so if you're not able to do that, we can see if we can find another time, but I think that has been really useful for people to be able to talk it through. So I'm going to just put you into those. Yeah, sorry,
Amelia, just one. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt her, just because I didn't answer Harriet's question about the data protection issues. So I'm not sure if, because I don't know whether you've arranged this with Lisa at all, Amelia. Do you know any more about this than I do? Or?
So what we're going to do, I mean, the information for the people who are, if we're supporting someone and they're giving us personal information, then we can explain to them that we're collecting that for the purposes of reporting and to give them more support, and that's where that information is going. For the Energy Champion volunteers, I am going to send you a volunteer form to fill in, which includes a kind of commitment to being responsible with any personal data that you encounter through your work. So yeah, you can kind of sign that by putting your name on it electronically and sending it to me by email, because it's a bit difficult doing that in a physical signature. And I guess for the CSE interns, then you can have your own process for doing that. Yeah, so once you've signed those forms, I will sort out access to that big spreadsheet. Good. Okay, so we'll give you just 5 minutes together in the breakout rooms to talk through how that's been, what you've learned, and what you need to have next.